Okay, so imagine this. The smartphone you're holding right now, the one in your pocket, could connect you from literally anywhere on Earth.
Anywhere, like deep in a forest or out at sea.
Exactly. Think deep in a national park, middle of the ocean, maybe even during some emergency where the local cell towers are down. No extra gadgets, no special satellite phone.
Hmm. Sounds pretty futuristic, doesn't it?
It does, but that's the really ambitious vision we're digging into today. We're looking at AST SpaceMobile, stock ticker
Right,
ASTS.
the company that's trying to build this network of satellites, basically space-based cell towers that talk directly to regular smartphones.
That's the one. So we've got this detailed prospect analysis, really gets into the weeds on AST SpaceMobile's potential.
Okay.
And our mission for this deep dive is, to pull out the key insights. What are the real opportunities here? And maybe more importantly, what are the big hurdles they're facing?
Looking for those aha moments.
Exactly. Those moments that help us and you listening understand what this could mean for the future of, well, just being connected.
Okay, so the core idea, AST SpaceMobile's big concept, it's this constellation of satellites acting like cell towers, just way, way higher up.
High above us, yeah.
And they're designed specifically to connect directly with standard unmodified smartphones, your phone, my phone, using the same cellular frequencies we already use.
That's the critical part, right? Because other services like Starlink or OneWeb, they need special terminals.
Precisely. That's the huge difference. AST's goal is seamless connection with the device you already have. No extra dish or box needed.
Which could be totally transformative. I mean, imagine reliable 4G, maybe even 5G in all those dead zones.
Or during disasters when ground networks are knocked out. The implications are pretty massive.
Yeah, huge.
And look, it's not just like a theoretical thing anymore. They've actually signed up some major partners, big mobile network operators, MNOs around the world.
Okay, like who are we talking about?
We're talking AT&T, Verizon, Vodafone, Rakuten Mobile in Japan, big names.
Wow, okay, so these aren't just handshake deals.
No, these partnerships are key. They mean access to existing customers and, crucially, access to established spectrum. That licensed spectrum is a huge barrier for anyone else trying to enter this market.
So they get a head start in reaching people globally without building towers everywhere.
Exactly. In the U.S., the plan is basically to lease spectrum from AT&T and Verizon for near nationwide coverage. Think of it like renting the airwaves they already own rights to.
Okay, renting airwaves from space. Got it. So they're working with the existing players. What's the timeline look like? When might we actually see this?
Well, the analysis points to a planned service launch targeting the end of 2026.
2026. That actually feels surprisingly soon for something this complex.
It is ambitious, but they are showing progress. The first operational satellite, they call it Bluebird 1 to 5, is actually scheduled for launch in September 2024.
This September. Okay, that's a big milestone, that moving from testing to like the real thing.
A very critical step, yeah, towards their goal of mass manufacturing and deploying more satellites starting in 2025 to actually build out the full network.
And haven't there been successful tests already showing it actually works?
Yes, exactly. They've done real-world experiments, things like video calls, 4G, and even 5G data sessions using the actual frequencies licensed to AT&T and Rakuten.
Okay, so proof of concept. That's significant validation.
It really is. And their next-gen satellite, the Bluebird Block 2, is designed to be a major leap. They're talking significantly more capacity, up to 120 megabits per second.
120 megabits. Directly from a satellite to my phone.
That's the claim. And it uses a massive antenna. Huge.
Okay, that sounds incredibly cool.
Yeah.
But all this space tech, these big satellites, the global partnerships,
Yeah.
it must cost an absolute fortune. What's the financial picture?
Yeah, that's the crucial question, isn't it? And you're right. As of now, early 2025, AST SpaceMobile is definitely not profitable. They're operating at a loss.
Okay.
And projections show those losses continuing through 2024, the trailing 12 months, and likely through 2026 as well.
So still deep in the investment phase.
It's very deep. The analysis highlights huge initial investments, R&D, obviously, but also just manufacturing these complex satellites. It's incredibly expensive.
I need specific numbers on that.
Yeah, in the first quarter of 2025 alone, their expenses for R&D and manufacturing were nearly $64 million.
Wow. Okay, that's serious cash burn.
It is. It underlines the massive upfront capital needed for these kinds of space ventures. And while their cash position looks strong right now, any big delays in getting revenue could really squeeze them later on.
So heavy spending now, loss is expected for a couple more years, but the analysts do expect a turnaround eventually.
The hope and the analyst consensus seems to be hitting gross profitability in 2027. That's when they forecast a significant revenue jump.
But right now, actual paying customers, not really there yet.
Not in terms of end users paying for service, no. The revenue they expect in 2025 is mostly from things like prepayments from partners for gateway equipment and some government contracts, not service fees from you or me.
Okay, so future potential revenue, but a trickle for now. What about their overall financial health, like cash on hand, debt?
Well, interestingly, despite the losses, they actually had a pretty strong cash position as of March 2025. Almost $875 million in cash and equivalents.
$875 million. Okay, that's a solid buffer.
It is. And they're actively looking for more funding, too, exploring options with the U.S. Export-Import Bank, the IFC,
Yeah.
places like that. Plus, their debt ratio is apparently quite low, which is definitely a positive sign.
That cash reserve must give them some breathing room. But you mentioned the burn rate. That analysis flagged it as significant, didn't it?
That's right. Given how much they're spending month to month, there's a definite possibility they'll need to raise more capital down the line, especially if profitability gets pushed out past that 2027 target.
Right, so managing that cash burn is going to be absolutely critical for them.
Essential, no question.
Okay, so they have this really compelling idea, this unique tech, making progress. But what really sets them apart? In a field that seems to be getting more crowded, what's the core advantage?
It really comes back to that unique technology, the direct communication with standard smartphones. That's their biggest ace, I think.
Because everyone else needs special gear.
Pretty much, yeah. Most satellite services need a dedicated terminal or dish. The fact that AST aims to work seamlessly with the phones we already have, using existing cellular bands, that's a massive potential differentiator.
Think so?
And then you add those partnerships with all the MNOs we mentioned. That's huge for market access. Plus the licenses they've secured, they even got FCC approval for testing on a public safety band, Band 14.
Oh, interesting. For first responders and things like that.
Potentially, yes. And they're collaborating with NASA and the FCC on the regulatory side, too, which shows they're thinking ahead about those hurdles. These partnerships and licenses aren't just paper. They represent real market access and a faster path to scaling up.
And being the sort of first mover in this specific direct-to-standard phone niche, that must count for something, too.
Oh, absolutely. That early lead, plus having major carriers already backing them, gives them a considerable head start.
But you said the field is getting crowded. Who are the main competitors they need to worry about?
Well, the big one is SpaceX's Starlink. They've partnered with T-Mobile for a similar satellite-to-mobile service. That's direct competition.
Right, Starlink's everywhere.
Then you have Apple integrating more satellite features directly into iPhones for emergency use and potentially expanding that. And other players like Omnispace and Link Global are also working on similar concepts. It's definitely not an empty field.
Yeah. Intense competition. Even some public sparring, right?
Yeah.
Didn't SpaceX criticize AST's claims?
Yeah, there was some back and forth with SpaceX accusing AST of information manipulation, I think was the term. Adds a bit of drama to the technical race.
Okay, so a tough environment. Now, who's actually steering the ship here? What about the leadership? Do they have the right experience?
The leadership team looks pretty strong on paper, actually. The CEO, Abel Avellan, he's the founder, previously founded and sold another successful satellite communications company called EMC.
Okay, so he's done this before, in a way.
Right, and he holds a bunch of patents in satellite tech, decades of experience. Then you've got the VP, Scott Wisniewski, who comes from investment banking, strong finance background, led big fundraising efforts.
Crucial for a company burning cash like this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the CTO, Dr. Huin Yao, he's ex-Northrop Grumman, deep technical background, worked on developing numerous commercial communication satellites. So, yeah, quite a bit of relevant expertise at the top.
That seems vital for navigating, both the technical and financial challenges. What about innovation? Are they just building this one system, or are they looking ahead?
Oh, they seem very focused on pushing the tech forward. That huge deployable antenna for the Bluebird Block 2 satellites is a perfect example.
Why does the antenna need to be so big? Just curious.
Well, think about it. You're trying to talk to a tiny smartphone antenna from hundreds of miles up in space. The phone signal is incredibly weak by the time it reaches the satellite. So the satellite needs a really large, really sensitive antenna to capture that faint signal. And it also needs to transmit a strong enough signal back down to overcome the distance and atmospheric stuff. Bigger antenna helps with both.
Makes sense. So serious engineering involved.
Absolutely. And beyond the antennas, they've got a portfolio of over 30 patents. They're actively doing R&D for future stuff too, 5G, even thinking about 6G, improving their base station tech, using AI to optimize the network.
AI optimization, how would that work?
Things like dynamically managing beams, allocating bandwidth more efficiently, predicting traffic patterns, basically making the network smarter and more responsive. They're also exploring hybrid systems that blend satellite and terrestrial networks and ways to reduce latency, that signal delay.
So definitely not standing still technologically.
Sure.
Sounds like they're trying to stay ahead. What about adapting to regulations in different global markets? That seems like a huge challenge too.
Yeah, navigating the regulatory landscape globally is complex, but AST seems pretty proactive. We mentioned the FCC testing permissions and the agreements with NASA that's about assessing potential impacts on astronomy, showing they're trying to be good neighbors in space.
Right, responsible development.
And they're pushing into international markets, Europe, Asia, that Rakuten Mobile partnership in Japan is key there. The fact that they've already gone through multiple satellite iterations based on test results also suggests they're flexible, willing to adapt their tech strategy as they learn.
And they plan to speed up launches next year.
That's the plan, yeah.
Right.
Accelerate satellite launches in 2025 to build out the constellation faster shows a commitment to rapid deployment.
Okay, lots of moving parts. Now, shifting gears a bit,
hmm
what about the people who will eventually use this? Customers. Any sense yet of what satisfaction might look like, even though it's pre-commercial?
Yeah, it's tough because commercial services haven't launched, so no direct feedback from everyday users yet. Their customers right now are mostly the MNO partners and some government groups.
But how are those partners reacting?
The analysis mentions positive feedback there, like that successful video call test with Rakuten Mobile. That's encouraging. But the real test, obviously, will be when millions of people start trying to use it.
What will be the key things to watch for then, once it launches?
Things like, is the connection reliable? Are the data speeds actually usable for what people want to do? Does it hand off smoothly between regular cell towers and the satellite when you move in and out of coverage? Those will be the critical metrics for real-world satisfaction. Consistency, speed, seamlessness.
Got it. Delivering that reliable experience.
Mhm.
Okay, let's touch on the less technical side. How does AST talk to its investors? Are they transparent?
They seem pretty active in communicating. Regular financial briefings, press releases, SEC filings, the usual stuff. They also do quarterly update calls where investors can ask questions.
And analysts seem generally positive.
Many analysts have positive ratings, yeah, which suggests a decent level of transparency. But the tech is really complex. Explaining it clearly to a broad investor audience is always a challenge for companies like this.
Is that shareholder lawsuit related to communication issues?
Potentially. The analysis mentions a lawsuit alleging misleading disclosures about satellite production delays, and then there's that information war comment from SpaceX we talked about. It highlights the communication challenges, though it's important to note the analysis says no major ethical issues have been definitively proven against AST at this point, just allegations and competitive sparring.
Okay. And for a company built on advanced tech, attracting and keeping the best engineers must be paramount. How are they doing on the talent front?
The analysis suggests they put a big emphasis on it. Having those experienced executives we discussed helps attract talent. They also run internal training programs, workshops on IP. Seems like they invest in developing their people.
Cultivating that expertise in-house.
Right. And the company culture is apparently very driven by, a passion for the space industry, which can be a big draw. But
Yeah.
it's a hot field.
Yeah, competition for talent must be fierce.
Extremely. They're competing with SpaceX, Blue Origin, established aerospace firms. Everyone wants the best space engineers. So staying competitive on pay and benefits will be crucial for them to hold on to their talent.
Makes sense. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's try to zoom out. Based on everything in this analysis, what's the sort of the big picture outlook,
Yeah.
especially thinking about potential investment returns?
Okay, big picture. The analysis gives a stock price snapshot from May 22, 2025, and the market cap then. It also notes the stock actually had a significant run-up in 2024.
Right.
And it mentions the average price targets from Wall Street analysts.
Yeah.
But maybe more interestingly, it actually assigns a probability to different return scenarios.
Like what?
It estimates a 30% probability of AST being a triple bagger, meaning the stock price triples within the next 10 years.
40% chance of tripling. Okay, why such high potential?
It boils down to a few key things. The absolutely massive potential market connecting the unconnected globally. Their unique proprietary direct-to-smartphone tech, getting buy-in from major carriers already, and just the overall expected growth of the satellite communications market in general.
That sounds compelling. But a 30% chance also implies a 70% chance it doesn't triple. What are the big risks holding it back?
Yeah, the flip side is significant risk. That intense competition, especially from Starlink, is huge. There's the risk that their carrier partners could change their minds or reduce commitment. Delays are always possible. Technical glitches, launch problems, regulatory roadblocks.
And the money aspect.
And the money, the high cash burn, the fact they're still losing money and don't have major service revenue yet, all those add to the risk profile significantly.
Okay, so a decent shot at significant returns, but major risks. What about, like, home run potential?
Yeah.
A 10-bagger?
Ah, the 10-bagger scenario.
Yeah.
The analysis puts the probability for that much lower, only 5%.
25%? Why so low compared to the triple?
Because becoming a 10-bagger would mean AST doesn't just succeed, it becomes like the dominant industry standard. It would require achieving a massive network effect, probably needing near-exclusive deals with the world's biggest carriers.
So basically world domination in their niche.
Pretty much, and that means overcoming enormous technological hurdles, navigating incredibly complex global regulations perfectly, and somehow fending off or marginalizing very powerful competitors like SpaceX. It's just a much, much higher bar to clear. Possible, maybe, probable. The analysis says not very.
Okay, that puts it in perspective. So
Yeah.
wrapping it all up, AST SpaceMobile has this really exciting, potentially game-changing vision. Unique tech, big partners lined up.
Definitely compelling, but
Mm.
they're walking a tightrope. Significant financial risks, fierce competition, and massive execution challenges ahead. The potential for high returns is there, but it is absolutely not a sure thing.
Far from guaranteed.
Far from it. The real aha moments, I think, are still that core idea, your existing phone connecting anywhere via satellite, and just the sheer scale and ambition of building this constellation.
Right. Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If this works, if truly seamless global mobile connectivity becomes a reality, what does that actually change?
How does it alter how we communicate day to day, how we travel, how we respond to emergencies or disasters?
What are the bigger societal impacts, good and bad? Think about what happens when everyone is potentially connected, everywhere.
It's definitely something to ponder. We'd encourage you to keep an eye on this whole satellite communications space. Follow AST SpaceMobile, watch their competitors. It's certainly going to be an interesting area in the next few years.
Absolutely. A space to watch indeed.